name is Ian Stewart. I'm the General Secretary of Edinburgh Interfaith Association. Edinburgh Interfaith Association is honoured to support the Carers Forum in such an important cause. The government must understand that cutting support to carers is not only a false economy, but it will cost more in the longer term. It is also not morally just when so many people have given up work, health and contact with friends and family to care for relatives and friends who have become ill and disabled. The poorest people in Britain have been disproportionately affected by the financial crisis, and the recent welfare cuts may drive up the inequality levels. The burden of the economic recession must be proportionately and fairly shared. The most vulnerable must be protected in our society from severe hardship. Scotland has prided itself in being a nation that cares for its people, with a strong emphasis on social justice. And that's something that we should be proud of, and it's important that we don't lose sight of that. Let's lead the way across the UK and show how we can emerge from economic hardship while protecting our key moral values and the rights of the most vulnerable in our society.
I'm Veronica Kidd. I'm a carer. I have been for over 21 years. I have 3 grandchildren that I've cared for. Up until 4 years ago, I didn't realise I was a carer until I had went to one of the meetings of kinship carers. Realised then that was my title as a carer. Until then, no. I was just someone that looked after my 3 grandchildren, tried to bring them up the best I could. The support I got, I was advised to go for a Section 11, which I did do, but in hindsight now, I should have been offered a lot more different options, what way to go down, if I could have financial help and things like that, but no, I was only advised to take a Section 11 out, which I had to do myself, not social work department. No, I felt after I got Section 11, I just felt it was fine that I had children, they were safe, no one could come in and take them away from me. It was just a relief knowing that the children were safe and no one else could come and say to me I would need to give the children up or give them back to their mum, which I knew was unfit to look after them. Well, to be quite honest with you, I've done 22 years of caring. Up until 2007, I took my 3rd grandchild on. And since then, I just feel social works departments and information you get has changed nothing whatsoever over 22 years. This just seems to say, it's there, you get on with it, cope with it, and you still get that stigma, you have fear to phone them to find out anything in case it's a back mark against you. And that's still now going on, and that's 22 years, so the system's not changed much at all. It just give you a very bad complex about phoning them, you don't feel at ease. You know, so I just feel over 22 years it's never changed.
Hiya, I'm Lewis Thompson. I'm currently studying at Edinburgh College doing working within communities. Within that course there's lots of subjects. I also volunteer at the Jack Cain Centre doing detached youth work, and I'm a part of MVP Scotland, which stands for Mentors in Violence Prevention. Well, a few years ago I used to care for my dad full time, and caring for my dad was looking after him, making sure he was okay, in control of his money, paying his bills, making meals, making sure he never went out at stupid times, just in general making sure he was safe. And the impact that had on me was quite bad. I had to quit education. It was stressful. I couldn't go out with friends. I never really socialised much. I think it would be a lot better because I would have a lot better social life. I could go out at the weekend with friends, go to the cinema, I could buy new clothes, I could just look after myself. Yes, it's affected my household. The house is staying with my grandmother. We've got a spare bedroom, so she has to pay, is it the bedroom tax,
Yes.
every week, which is less money for the family and which is less money for me to do activities outside the college.
My name's Lorraine Allen. I am 56 years old and I began caring 24 years ago. Seems like a lifetime. I've had my own business, I have worked, I have been incapacitated due to a spinal injury, and most recently in the last few years I attended Telford College to do an HNC in social sciences followed by a degree at Edinburgh University, and that's when things changed big time in my life because I felt I could not continue doing full-time caring, 35 hours plus per week, and also go to Edinburgh University to do a full-time degree. So I took the hard decision to give up the degree and focus on my caring because, you know, these are people that I love and care about, and that was a priority to me, although it broke my heart to give up the degree. I then pursued the Open University, which was a fantastic opportunity, which meant I could do part-time studies and also have, in theory, time to provide the hours of caring that, you know, was required for the responsibilities that I had. Well, considering I'd been caring for 24 years, I suppose it was when my ex-partner became unwell after an assault, and although it went undiagnosed for 18 months, I obviously knew that something was not correct. And I think it was when the neurosurgeon explained to me about my ex-partner's condition, and then I realised that things were pretty serious and I had the option to run, fight or flight. So I chose to fight, not to flight, not to run. And there's never been a dull moment, and hopefully one of these days I might even write a book about my experiences. Well, there's quite a few of ups and downs in 24 years, of course there has to be. I think I'll start with the most recent and work my way back. The most recent has to be that as a full-time student at university I wasn't able to, you know, claim carer's allowance, which is ridiculous because I was still providing the same amount of care that I had been prior to becoming a full-time student. As a result of leaving full-time education and going part-time, I gave up a bursary and the option of a loan, which you don't get as a part-time student. So I'm now financially much worse off than I've ever been. I'm on carer's allowance of whatever it is, £59.75 a week, which works out at £1.67, which is an insult. And that's topped up by income support. So my total income for the week is £103.36. I can't do the things that I used to do as a full-time student, and it's a real struggle financially to pay the bills. So that's number one. And then going back a little bit further to the most recent experience of full-time education, the person that I look after, the main person that I look after, moved from one region to another. So therefore it was a new social work department and that was responsible for his support and care. And I literally had a fight on my hands because when he moved from one region to another, he was on 24-hour care. When he moved into Edinburgh, he only received 41 hours of care per week plus 7 sleepovers. So there was a deficit of whatever, 56 hours a week. So yours truly, filled that gap. But what was more alarming was that the persons responsible at the time, without naming anyone in particular, seemed to think that this person that I looked after could actually do without even more care hours. He'd only been in his new care hour programme for a matter of 6 months. So it was my begging literally and bursting into tears emotionally, which I'm about to do I think at the moment, because I go back and think about how I experienced that. I think it was a disgrace that I wasn't listened to as someone that knew the person that I obviously loved very much, and I had to become so emotionally stressed out and upset before anybody listened to what I had to say, rather than accepting the fact that, of course, I knew the person better than anyone else, and I could see the effects of the proposed reduction of more hours on top of an already exhausted programme of support. I would like to see a rate of pay that reflects the care being undertaken. The national minimum wage is currently £6.19 per hour for someone aged 21 plus. Carers allowance is currently £59.75 per week, based on caring for someone 35 hours per week, and that's equivalent to £1.71, which I did mention before. However, I would also like to see working tax credits being allocated to unpaid carers, and regrettably I have to let the audience know, if they don't know already, that if I manage to get a job out with my 35 hours per week, plus of course my 20 hours as an OU student, I don't know when I'm expected to work, but however, if I manage to get the job, if I earn more than £100 per week, believe it or not folks, I lose my carers allowance. I think it's bad because as carers, unpaid carers, we save the economy of this country, that's the UK, not just Scotland, a fortune. And you know why? Because if we forfeited and stopped working and looking after our loved ones, then the country would be faced with a massive care bill. Apart from that, I have to say that I want to thank Edinburgh City Council for their recent unique initiative by giving unpaid carers caring for people who are receiving high rate care components the sum of £250. I'd really like that to be shown throughout Scotland by each council, and each council taking that initiative on, and also perhaps looking at providing some sort of financial opportunity for other carers who perhaps don't have people that they look after that are on a high rate of care. I'm very passionate about trying to do what I can for unpaid carers, because I think it's about time our voice was heard.
So my name's Dawn Kirkpatrick. I've been looking after my mum for, I would say, probably more so the last 2 years since your partner died, David. So yes, so we're here today, and this is my mother.
And you're my lovely daughter.
So
To
I
that
stay
situation.
Thursday, Friday, and usually one day during the week or on a Saturday, and partly Sunday. So I would probably say about 30 hours. I've got a full-time job as a beauty therapist, and I work for myself and have done now for the last 5 years. And I also have 2 part-time jobs. I'm a part-time receptionist for the gym that I work in, and a part-time teacher, so I teach beauty as well. I don't feel I've got enough time for me, and enough time to spend with my partner.
Okay.
So it is affecting him as well. It's funny because I don't think of myself as a carer. At the moment, I'm just, you know, happy looking after my mum.
Yeah, I didn't want any carers coming on or anything like that.
Right.
But it has to be recognised that if you are looking after somebody, then you should be entitled to either something to give you a little bit of breathing space, would be nice, even just for a week or two. It has to be recognised that you are doing that as a carer, and it should be recognised for sure. Yes, they should definitely recognise more on unpaid carers like myself who are just in this situation where you just think you're looking after a loved one, but you know you do need assistance. You can't do it all yourself, and I can't do it all myself. I've proved that I can't cope. I've got too much on, and it would be nice to have some sort of assistance.
My name is George Lamb. I'm 45 years old. I had a rare genetic disorder. I was born with that genetic disorder. So all I have known through my entire life has been various forms of long-term health issues and the life of someone who is deemed to be disabled. This has left me very much as an individual looking in on society rather than feeling that I have always been a part of society. I attended a special school. I was in various work schemes by both the Thatcher and the Blair government, all aimed at improving disabled people, not accommodating disabled people. The two main issues that the majority of the people that I am aware of, not necessarily those that I know personally,
Yes.
but those that I am in contact with through social media or campaign groups, are the Dublin tax and PIP. It's perhaps worthwhile noting that this time last year that would have been different. That would have very much have been people were scared to death back then of the introduction of the new ESA and the new tests. I think what I'm doing here is highlighting how the rolling progress of changes doesn't so much leave the individual with one particular fear, it introduces new fears. The old fears do not disappear, they just go off into the background to be relived any time and every time a brown envelope comes through the door. What we have today is a situation where people have no security. No security in the knowledge that they can stay in their homes, that they can rely on their ability to interact with their community, and no ability to feel secure that they, as humans, are able to direct their own lives. This, more so with the Dublin tax, and is something that government have been well aware of ever since the notion of the bedroom tax was raised. Politicians, campaign groups, individual members of the public have been telling the government for the last 2 years that the hardest hit with the bedroom tax would be those with disabilities, long-term illnesses, and the carers of those with those conditions. Simply and only because those are the people who have no choice. The stock answer is that people can move. If they cannot afford where they live, they can move. If we set aside the fact that there are not enough houses to let, if we set that to one side and just look at the ability, the physical ability for people with long-term health needs to pick themselves up and relocate, knowing that that will inevitably cause them additional health and mental health issues, as well as demand that they reorganise not just where they live, but their entire social safety net. That they have a burden placed on them to re-register with doctors, with other professionals. It cannot then be sustained that this is a simple case of picking up thy bed and moving.
My name's Shirley Todd, and I've got a brain tumour, and when they tried to operate to take as much as they could out years ago, I had a stroke on the operating table, so it caused huge complications and left me unable to speak or move at all in the beginning. I have home care that comes in the morning to help me put my spitting shoes on for me. We asked them to widen doors, and it's taken over 2 years to get the doors widened, and it's taken over a year still for her to get a door entry system installed. I can't say anything about it. The other thing I'm worried about is that my husband Stephen has got arthritis in his knees, and I'm worried that we get to the stage where he'll need looking after. So who's going to look after me when that happens?
My name is Stephen Todd. I currently care for my wife Shirley. I come from a background of I was self-employed for 15 years, a company director for 6 years, went to work for Royal Mail for 2.5 years and was subsequently medically retired from Royal Mail. I have a long-term medical condition which is arthritis, and it coincided with my wife was just out of hospital. She's permanently disabled, wheelchair bound, and it kind of corresponded where it gave me the opportunity to give her the care and attention that she needs. We know that the higher rate disability payment, the middle rate's actually getting scrapped, and that we went from DLA and we're going on to PIP. With the welfare reforms that are underway, we don't know what's going to happen with Shirley's DLA, for example. I do get carers allowance, which equates to, for my 35 hours that I care for, that you have to, the minimum you're required to care for someone. and I think it works about £1.69, £1.70 an hour. It breaks down.
Okay.
I think it was a fantastic idea. I think everybody who received it was very, very grateful for it. It was a slight bit of a palaver to get it, and you were slightly limited to what you could do with it. Personally, to give myself some respite, I put it towards purchasing my season ticket for football to give me a break, and it also allowed me to take my youngest daughter with me, which is a fantastic thing. I think they should definitely continue with the one-off payment. That's fantastic. If they could find some way to index link that or maybe increase that slightly, I think that's a fantastic idea. I think it was people who I know, and I know several people who received it, it was a boost. It allowed them to get something for themselves, some form of respite for themselves, something that they particularly wanted, which was vital. We from caring, we get so little money that anything like that helps. I do think that we have to start looking at training. I think training is vital. Training for carers in general, because we provide a service. There are organisations like Vocal who provide a certain amount of training. I'm very lucky because of my voluntary work for the council. I get sent on various training courses. I've just completed other course with Arthritis Scotland, which is, all these things are vital because you know parts of what you're doing, but you're really left to get on with an awful lot of it. And I just think that the more training we get, we also provide fantastic training with regards to brain injuries and things. And these are the things that we need more, but it has to come from, it shouldn't be coming from these organisations, it should be coming from the government.
At the beginning, yes, definitely. My grades dropped a bit and it was quite hard to concentrate at school. But it's gotten, you kind of adapt to what needs to be done and how you need to do it in this new way. And although it is really difficult to start off with, I'm not going to lie, it is really hard to get used to the fact that this person who used to care for you, you're now caring for. But you get used to it.
Thomsons were delighted to be asked to sponsor the Carers Forum taking place in Edinburgh on 18th September this year. Thomsons lawyers have a long history of campaigning for justice, equality and fairness. We have grave concerns over cuts, their legality and the impact on people with disabilities and the ever-expanding army of carers in Scotland. The UK government and local authorities have a legal obligation to consider the impact of any policy change on people with disabilities. Our view is that government has failed. Local authorities are failing to consider this and the impact of their brutal budget cuts. We share the concerns of countless charities promoting the interests of people with disabilities and carers that cuts will deny access to services and resources which will have a negative and disproportionate effect on their jobs and their living standards. Government's policy and local authorities' sweeping cuts fail to adequately consider this impact and have the potential to alienate those with disabilities and the people assisting with their care. How can Thomsons help those who are adversely affected? Well, we can assist in helping to review decisions in situations where cuts no longer preserve access to the most basic human right to engage in society. Disabled people and those who provide care are not less capable of being full citizens, nor do they hold a second-class status in society. The disadvantages that they face only arise from barriers placed in their way, such as the removal of finance, which is fundamental to securing the same standard of life that every citizen should expect.